Hi everyone, Eva here. I'm the owner and founder of My Sleeping Baby, and today's Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. So every Friday I answer one mom's sleep question who posted in the My Sleeping Baby Facebook group, and today's question I'm going to be answering is from Jessie. And her question is, I have a question about the timing of one nap for a 15-month-old. My little one has been on one nap since he started at a home daycare at 12 months. My concern is that nap time is at 11 o'clock in the morning, which seems too early for one nap. He loves his daycare, so I don't want it to be a deal breaker, but I think can stress about it daily. I could ask her to put him down at 12, but there are 3 other kids, a 1-year-old and 2 3-year-olds who all go down at 11 o'clock, so it might be loud when they wake up, and I want the caregiver to get a break as well. Is a nap time of 11 a.m. okay? Will it just mean an early bedtime and early wake time? He wakes up at 6 a.m. and goes to bed at 7 p.m. His naps are usually 2 hours on average. So really good question, Jessie. So to answer your question very briefly, you're right. And I know a number of the moms answered this as well. 11 a.m. is not an ideal time for a baby on a one nap schedule. However, and before I elaborate, I'm going to elaborate as to why. But I want to address that very last sentence in your question, which states that he's sleeping from 6 until 7 and takes a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day. And I'm assuming he's not waking up at night. Otherwise, I think you would have mentioned that. If something is working, you don't have to change it. So yes, it's not ideal, right? It is a recipe for potential problems, but it's not a recipe for guaranteed problems. So if he's giving you daily get out of jail freeze, giving you decent nighttime sleep, even with a daytime schedule that isn't ideal, you don't have to worry about it. It's fine. So there's no need to stress, no need to be anxious about it. Look, if it begins to cause problems, then you worry about it. But as long as it's fine, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, let me explain to you why it can cause problems. The main reason is because if a baby is awake for too long between the end of his last nap and bedtime, that can create overtiredness. And overtiredness can create crankiness and a really unhappy baby. It can cause difficulty falling asleep, it can cause night wakings, and it can cause early rising. If you have none of these, then you're obviously fine. But I'll tell you, a scenario that I do see very often with a baby who is transitioned prematurely to one nap and is taking that one nap too early is I see early rising very often emerge. So if that was happening, then we would definitely need to speak to your daycare provider about putting him down later so that he's not awake for this huge chunk of time before bedtime. What's most ideal for a toddler who's on a one nap schedule is to be napping closer to 12:30 or 1 o'clock so that when that 2 to 2.5 hour nap ends by, say, 3 o'clock, he usually can't be awake for much longer than 4 hours before bedtime, so that will safely get you a bedtime in the 7 to maybe 7:30 range. Versus right now, with a nap ending at 1 or 1:30, there's a good chance that he might have been ready to go back to sleep for 5 or 5:30, which is not ideal or practical for obvious reasons. But hey, if he's not a basket case by 5 or 5:30, then you can continue with it. Now, just on a side note, if there were problems that were beginning to emerge and you were beginning to experience early rising and you were beginning to experience problems getting him to bed at bedtime and you were beginning to experience a huge amount of crankiness with your son when you're picking him up at 5 or 5:30, don't feel guilty about suggesting to move the nap time later because, to be honest, I think all the children in the daycare would benefit from a later nap as well. I mean, 11 a.m. isn't a good nap time for anyone. Look, the 1-year-old might need 2 naps, probably still needs 2 naps, but for the 2 3-year-olds, that's a very, very early nap time. I'm surprised that those 3-year-olds are able to fall asleep so early on. And if a daycare provider says, well, they're exhausted by 11 o'clock, I can't keep them up later, they're all falling on their faces. The thing with that is that chances are they are legitimately tired by 11 because that's when their bodies are programmed to go to sleep. That's when their biological clock is telling them it's time to go to sleep because that's when they're used to actually going to sleep. So in a situation like this, you wouldn't just keep them up cold turkey until 12:30 because they'll be collapsing 45 minutes earlier. You push the start time of the nap later and later by 15-minute increments. But for your specific situation, as long as everything is working out just fine and your baby is sleeping through the night and isn't giving you any trouble, don't worry about it. It's clearly working out just fine, and you obviously have a really, really good sleeper on your hands. Hope this was helpful. Have a great weekend, everyone.